On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we give you the latest updates on OU's roster. Then it is the debut of Football Guys Talking Basketball, where we talk some Sooners and Thunder. And of course, we give you our winners and losers of the weekend. Please download it and subscribe to the podcast. Rate it 5 stars and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Also visit okbreakdown.com. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, January 6th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful, award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games, with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, good times, great rewards, and oh my God, it's cold.
Welcome back, Gabe.
I have been in Maui. Quite the temperature change, my friend.
Well, I mean, you're kind of going through what the rest of us are going through. It's not like it's been cold.
Oh, no one's going to feel bad for me, and I don't expect them to. But yeah, well, I had not checked the weather at home until the flight home, and oh, sure, feels like -2 when we landed.
It's so funny. I saw, there was that video of Lake Michigan, all the wind pushing all the ice right up against the shore there in Chicago, and someone had it as Lake Hefner, as always. It's just so funny. Felt like it.
Hope everyone is staying warm out there in the state of Oklahoma. Let's get into it, Ted. As always, just a ton of Oklahoma football stuff to
Content
talk about.
king.
The content team keeps out. They just keep churning it out over there, Norman. I'm going to need your help translating the R. Mason Thomas tweet. I know that you are our historian. You're our pop culture knower.
Yeah.
I there's no doubt in my mind that you have extensive knowledge of Greece.
Mm-hmm.
So explain the tweet to me. What did it mean? There was a highlight video and then 2 pictures from Greece in the tweet.
After consulting my wife, who is a Greece expert, knows every line start to finish, I have basically come to the conclusion that it has to be bored football players sitting around in the dorms and in the locker room with nothing else to do.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Okay.
I
That's
still
better
feel
than
like
nothing.
I still feel like he's staying. I mean, I've kind of felt that way all along. I guess I feel like we're in a really good spot if he doesn't go to the draft, which is, I guess, maybe a stupid statement, but I feel pretty good about it. I do.
Is it weird that my initial reaction was, hey, you don't put a tweet out like that if you're not coming back?
Right. You don't, that's not your goodbye to Sooner fans. I mean, maybe from some guys, but like the interview you guys did post game with him, he's like a very deep, thoughtful person. I just, that would not be his goodbye tweet if he was going to the draft.
He's apparently a very deep, thoughtful, sincere guy that loves Greece.
Grease fan.
Who knew? I I think our assumption at this point is he's going to come back. It feels like it's leaning that way, and I know that they have come to an agreement if he does come back, from an NIL standpoint, and they feel very, very good about where that stands as well. But I just keep thinking about, okay, what can this defense in 2025 be if he is back? And I like to imagine a 2025 Oklahoma Sooners team with R. Mason Thomas coming off the edge. That's when I'm laying in bed at night thinking about this football team next season. No, I would never do that. That'd be very weird. Why would I? No, This is a hypothetical conversation, okay, people? I would never do that. I like to imagine R. Mason Thomas
I'm,
just coming off the edge and raising hell.
all I can think of is the meme where the girl is like thinking that he's thinking about girls and the guy's thinking of Batman or whatever. It's Gabe. I think our Mason can go for double digit sacks next year. It'd be great.
Easily. Easily. I, I
Yeah,
think I think the production is the important part, but there's also a leadership piece to this, Ted. And I
yes.
feel like R. Mason Thomas, he kind of came into his own as a leader this year as he produced more and more throughout the season.
Yep. No, I totally agree. It's the first time since he's been here that he's put together a full season healthy, and that was the ultimate difference. Now, he had a great year. Imagine, well, when did his production come? Late when we needed it, right? Well, how many times do we have a lead in the fourth quarter this year? Not a whole lot. So what my first thought goes to, if this offense can be what we hope, and it doesn't even have to be the best offense in the country, it doesn't have to be the best offense in the conference. Just a top half of the SEC competent offense where we got some leads and our defense can play with a score or two cushion, it's going to totally change the dynamic for the pass rushers.
I think that the defense as a whole, the defense was good this year. Even though you're losing Stutzman and Bowman, is it strange that I expect the defense as a whole to be better next season?
Well, no, because I think you can have, I mean,
And it has everything to do with what I think this defensive line can be.
yeah. Uh, well, defensive line, um, we got a lockdown corner in Eli Bowen. We're deep at safety, Kendel Dolby, which we'll get to. I mean, and the other thing is, I expect with Stutzman stepping away, headed to the NFL, I really expect Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis and others in that room to kind of come out of the shadow and take a big step forward. Just whenever you've got the burden, you're the guy, full-time starter. There's not a star in the room anymore, so to speak. I think those guys, it's healthy for those guys, and I think they'll kind of grow into that role. I'm not suggesting that, either guy is going to be better than Stutzman. I think that we will get better versions of not just the linebackers, honestly. I mean, most everyone that's coming back will have had multiple years now in this defense. And, as we talked so much about Stutzman and Downs and Bowman, playing all their years at Oklahoma. Well, now we're getting to the point where we've got several guys that played all their years at Oklahoma, but have also played all their years in this system. And that's a big deal.
I think when you look at what they're losing, clearly Stutzman and Bowman are really, really good players. And I expect those guys to have long NFL careers. But they're also, and you throw Ethan Downs into it, those are what I would say is the leader at each level of the defense. Like I feel like Downs was the leader of the defensive line group. Stutzman was clearly the leader of the linebacking group. And then Bowman was the leader in the back end. And that's where R. Mason Thomas, yes, getting the production back, getting a premier pass rusher in the SEC back is a huge deal. But it's also one of those situations where if he comes back, it feels like he's going to step into that leadership role. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't think he's a big rah-rah guy. But when you produce the way that he produced this season and you're coming back, you naturally just assume a leadership role. Guys look to you as being one of the leaders of the team because you're one of, if not the best player on the team. That's just how it works in this sport. And I think he's the type of guy that is fine kind of stepping into that leadership role. So, like I mentioned, getting the production of what he is as a player back is really, really important. But when you've got these three guys in Downs and Bowman and Stutzman that have been awesome leaders and kind of culture setters for this program, I feel like R. Mason can be one of those guys. So you've got that production piece, but also this defense needs that leadership piece that I think he can provide.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Um, and I think I don't know how high he would get drafted. He would get drafted, and it would be fairly high, top 3 rounds probably.
I think at the worst, he'd be a late third rounder.
Yeah. And I don't think I think he could make more money next year if he went to the NFL, but I don't think it would be by a whole lot. And I do think that he is a guy because sometimes you look at a player and it's like, hey, you know, this guy he's a first rounder. There's no reason for him to come back. He may improve a couple of picks, but the risk outweighs the reward. I don't think R. Mason Thomas is that guy. He could come back, and if the team turned things around and had a really good season, I think he could make more money. And I think he'll find out, just like I think Stutzman will, that being a 4-year guy here, as it becomes more and more rare, I think that is incredibly valuable, and it's not just a 1-year value. That is, depending on how you play it, you can cash in on that all kinds of ways for the rest of your career. And not that he couldn't if he left, but he could seriously be one of those legacy guys where you lead a team. Like, there's going to be hunger in this fan base for success, and if this team next year has it, the players that are going to be on that roster are going to be remembered for a long time. And that's valuable.
Just think, he can play in the NFL for a long time, and then a few years after, start a podcast, and the fan base will pretend that they think he knows what he's talking about.
That's a great concept.
I
Someone should take that and run with it.
I know, but
No, he's a like everything that I've heard from him, obviously watching him on the field, but just the off-field stuff. I love the kind of guy he is, and though he is the type of guy that you want leading your football team.
I completely agree with that. And I wonder if the news that Marvin Jones Jr. will be coming to Oklahoma influences R. Mason Thomas's decision at all. I think it only helps. I think having a guy on the other end that has played a lot of college football now, that is 6'5", 255, that absolutely looks the part. I think that only encourages R. Mason Thomas to come back even more.
The better the forecast is, in my opinion, the more likelihood he comes back for a bunch of reasons. He wants to have success here. I guess, I haven't heard that from him, but I'm assuming he's a football player. They all do. You don't want your last season to be a 6-7 year. You want to walk out of here, with the trophy, right? Or, something big to be proud of as a player. And the better the forecast is, the better we look on the interior, which is, Dominic Williams coming back. You got Stone, you got Jaden Jackson. Things are looking really good on the defensive line. And the more guys to block, the better opportunity it is to get home.
No doubt. And I would imagine that influenced Marvin Jones Jr.'s situation, like his decision as well.
Sure.
Hey, R.
Absolutely.
Mason Thomas is going to be on the other side. He's going to draw a lot of attention from these teams in the SEC. Like, people are going to game plan for that guy because of what he did this season. That will create a bunch of one-on-one opportunities for Marvin Jones Jr.
Yep.
That guy looks fantastic in a jersey.
6'5", 255.
He is,
experience.
and I have not been able to dive into his film. I'll probably do it tonight after this. I'll start diving into his film this season from Florida State. But he's got the physical traits you are looking for an edge guy. He's got the genetics, he's got the bloodlines. His dad was an absolute stud.
Yes, he was animal.
So I feel like Marvin Jones Jr. being added to the edge room for the Sooners, I feel like it significantly raises the floor of that room. Now, I'm very interested to see if they can get Marvin Jones Jr. to his ceiling because he's got all the measurables, he's got the physical traits. I don't think we've seen his best football yet, but I do think adding a big, long, physical guy that's played a lot of college football now to that room with Ethan Downs leaving, I think this helps significantly in that room when it comes to okay, what's the baseline level of play going to look for this edge group?
Yeah. Well, and another thing is he's more of the mold to where you can point to a guy like PJ and even Danny Okoye. And, I don't know how technically proficient Marvin Jones Jr. is, but my hope is that, some of the skill sets that he's going to have, like the every player has to play a little bit different because of their body size. And there really hasn't been a model to follow for PJ. He's a little bit different than everyone in that room, but he's way more similar to Marvin Jones Jr., or at least that's kind of what you're hoping for with him. So, my hope is that he would elevate the younger guys as well.
That would be awfully nice. And last episode, we talked about how excited we are for this defensive line, and that was before the Marvin Jones Jr. news. I mean, just think my excitement for this group in 2025, for this defensive line group, just continues to grow. R. Mason Thomas, if he comes back. Now Marvin Jones Jr., now Jaden Jackson, Dominic Williams, Grayson Halton, David Stone. What if we start seeing PJ reach his potential? You got to get a Okoye on the field. Just find some ways to get him on the field. And Taylor Wine is a guy you and I both like as well. Like
Yep.
the size, the length, the athleticism, the physicality. This is the highest expectations that I'm going to have for an OU defensive line in quite some time, man.
You lose a 4-year starter in Downs, and that loss cannot be minimized. He was he's a concrete guy. He brings it. He holds that whole group together. But everyone else that's coming back, you expect to be at a minimum a little bit better. I think there's some guys in there that could take some huge leaps, like Jaden Jackson. I mean, I think that he could be. He was great this year. I imagine with the year under his belt, a good offseason, I think he's going to be just a killer on the inside. So with the loss of Downs, you hope that because of everyone else getting better and then the addition of Marvin Jones Jr., that overall, I know we lose big DJ Terry. Like, we don't have a guy of that size. That's kind of the one thing. I do expect all of those guys to get bigger, but man, overall, as you look at it right now, you have to say that it would be a surprise and frankly a disappointment if next year wasn't the best defensive line year that we've had in a long time. Now, we stayed really healthy there this year. We need some more luck next year, but as you look at it right now, group looks really good.
One more thing on the Marvin Jones Jr. edition. I do think you've seen, I think you've seen a shift in OU's portal strategy where they're getting guys with multiple years of eligibility left. When you look at some of these guys they're bringing in this portal cycle, where they're identifying younger, talented guys that can maybe grow in the program. But I really don't mind bringing in a guy like Marvin Jones Jr., who's got 1 year of eligibility left.
Yeah.
It's kind of a prove it season for him. And especially if R. Mason Thomas is on the other side, he's got a great opportunity to start or play a ton. And he's playing an elite schedule, maybe the most difficult schedule in college football next season. He's going to have every opportunity in his last year of eligibility to prove that he should be a high draft pick.
Yep.
And I don't mind having some of those guys on the roster. A guy that's coming in going, I need to prove myself. I need to have a hell of a year. I don't think that's selfish. I think you need a little selfishness to be a really great defense. And I just imagine he's coming in going, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to show the type of player that I am. And I think that he's going to have every opportunity to increase his draft stock the way that he wants to increase it.
Yep. I mean, all things point right now to the defense being really good next year, and being a part of a really good defense. I mean, that's what you want. That kind of lifts everyone there and draws more attention. You said the schedule, and I expect us to play really good defense against that tough schedule. So yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with you.
We got several more things to talk about. But first, hitting the highway, remember to stop at Love's Travel Stops. You can't miss the heart of the highway. And with the Love's app, you can also save big. How big? 10 or 15 cents big. Save 10 cents per gallon on gas and 15 cents per gallon on auto diesel. Save with the Love's app today and be welcomed by clean places and friendly faces. Certain conditions may apply. See loves.com for details.
You listen to this podcast to get insight from the guys who played the game. Why don't you take that same approach when it comes to buying your beef? When you order from Didier Ranch, you are getting your beef directly from the people who raise it. A rancher knows what it takes to have premium quality beef. Didier Ranch has done it for over 100 years right here in Oklahoma. From delicious 21-day dry-aged ribeyes to savory steak burgers, there is no better place to get your beef. Get your beef from the guys who've done it and use code Oklahoma15 for 15% off on DidierRanch.com. Didier Ranch, tradition tastes better.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the official drinkware partner of the OU Sooners. Let me ask you a question. Are you getting enough water every day? Probably not. Did you know that men need about 124 ounces of water per day to stay hydrated? Let Simple Modern help you meet your hydration goals for this new year and help all the Sooners in your life stay hydrated this year too. Plus, with Simple Modern's new personalizer, you can now create personalized drinkware for yourself or anyone else with just a few clicks. With 10% of all Simple Modern profits going to charity, many in Oklahoma, you're also helping Oklahomans everywhere. Simple Modern, it's good everywhere. Kendel Dolby announced he'll be coming back for the 2025 season. Before we dive into what this means and how important it is for OU's defense, let's rate the announcement. You had the R. Mason Thomas thing. Everyone's still confused. But pain is my fuel. Run it back with the highlight video. I feel like it's very easy to understand. Plain, simple, no long graphic with a bunch of reading, which is always appreciated. Thank you, Kendel Dolby. I felt like it was straight and to the point. Well executed announcement.
It's an announcement made for me, right? I can grasp it. I know what's going on. I can celebrate as soon as I see it. Don't need to confer with my wife to see if there's any hidden meaning in there. Straightforward. I love it. I rate it about as high as you possibly could.
Well done, Kendel Dolby. You get
That's right.
five out of 5 on the layman scale.
That's it.
And you and I we talked about this. We assumed Kendel Dolby was going to be back for another year. But I was very glad when I saw that it was official. With it now being official, Ted, just how important is this for OU's defense in 2025? Because that dude is he is a fantastic fit for that cheetah spot.
Cover corner is where he started and, slid into the cheetah spot where you're covering that slot. we just we get some good stuff from Omasigo. They're different players. And when people want to spread you out, RPO, like the coverage skills in the slot are maybe the most critical on the football field. Corner obviously is big, but that slot, it's close to the ball. The ball gets on you really fast. Play action is a factor. Your eyes are a factor. So you've got to be really dialed in. You got to be quick. You got to be a great tackler. And he checks every single box all the way down. And Venables doesn't throw it out very often, but whenever he says a guy has a chance to be elite, I listen. And he said that about Kendel Dolby. And what we saw from him early in the season, he was definitely trending in that direction. As long as everything heals good with his injury, which I assume it will, I don't know that he's going to be a guy that you're expecting to do a whole lot in spring. I'm fine with that. Need him 100% healthy, ready to go. But, I mean, it's a game changer. It really is. I would say, I mean, don't you think the biggest problem we had defensively was chunk passing game stuff, right? And the more we can shore up the coverage, the better.
No doubt. And he plays big.
Yes, he does.
He is not big, but he plays big. He is really good at using his hands and getting off blocks. You mentioned he's a really good blitzer. I think that the key is just getting back from what was a brutal injury. It was bad. We all watched it.
Yep.
Now, hopefully it's one of those where it just looks worse than it is, but it looked real bad. Real bad.
I mean, sometimes it's better to have that than it is an ACL or something. I guess I don't know all the details of it, but yeah, I here's how I look at it as a defensive player. If I'm R. Mason Thomas, if I'm Marvin Jones Jr., I'm that defensive line. The better the coverage is, the extra half second you get in a pass rush, and that is critical. If the ball is, snap, first read, second read, ball's out. I mean, it's different when a quarterback first read, second read, it's not there, trying to find the third read. It gets more panicked as it goes. The sack numbers go way up whenever your coverage is better.
And Kendel Dolby makes your coverage better.
100%.
And I really think the question is, can he get back to what he was? Because I thought before he got injured, there was an argument to be made that he was playing better ball than anyone else on the football team.
Yep.
And we'll see if he's able to get back to that form. And I really hope he does, because he's fun as hell to watch.
He is. Yep.
And that guy flies around and he's physical and he tackles well. He brings an energy and an excitement to the football field that I just love watching. And I think he brings an excitement to the defense. And I do think they missed that after his injury at that cheetah spot. So I was thrilled to see him coming back for another season. Now it's just, hey, can he get back to the guy that we watched early in 2024?
Yeah. And we got a glimpse of what it's like whenever you have a star at that position, which we haven't really had. Year one, they had Deshaun White playing there, kind of out of position, did a good job, trying to feel his way out at Cheetah in year one, not knowing the system, being unfamiliar with the position. Year two, we got a mix of Dolby in there a little bit. Year three, he was off to a great start. And when you have a star playmaker at that Cheetah spot, it changes things drastically. And if we get that back, it also, whenever you've got a guy that you can anchor and rely on, he's an every snap guy. You can play him against every personnel package. I mean, that defines things and cleans things up a little bit more at your safety rotation, because, we've had to kind of move some different guys around and fill in. Maybe matchups would dictate who's playing in that role a little bit. But he's a guy that clears all of that up for you.
No doubt. Are you alarmed at all that there's still nothing official when it comes to the defense coordinator situation?
No,
No big deal.
no.
It doesn't feel like a big deal because all of the best players keep announcing that they're coming back, and you get a guy like Marvin Jones Jr. It's not like there weren't a lot of places after him. I mean, he just visited Texas. I think he visited Penn State as well. Like, and those people are still coming. Like a guy like that is still coming. All the best players have announced that they are staying. So although it feels a little odd that OU does not have a defensive coordinator right now, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal.
I I'm almost to the point where I prefer it. Like the last thing we need right now is to start changing things up defensively. Like I've been talking about, this is going to be year 4 in this system. A lot of guys have played in this scheme for multiple seasons now. They know it. They've executed at a high level, and I worst case scenario is Brent Venables is calling the defense. I mean, we know he's in that room anyways. We know he's heavily influencing what's happening on that side of the ball. With all that's at stake next year, if Brent Venables is calling the defense, that's not a bad place to be, in my opinion. Now, the one thing that you do have to figure out is linebacker coach. Because you will have to hire a linebacker coach, and I think there's a bunch of people that are interested in that job. I think there's a chance that Venables could hire within on that job. But I mean, that's another spot that, I mean, it's one thing when Venables makes a hire at a position coach on the offense or maybe even in the secondary. But if he's making a hire at linebacker coach, I feel really good that he believes in that guy and that guy's going to get what he wants out of the position. So maybe it sounds weird, but there's a lot of things I'm worried about with this football team headed into next year, and who's going to be calling the defense is not one of them.
It is noteworthy that Pete Nakos from On 3 reported that Clemson's Wes Goodwin is not expected to return as their defensive coordinator. Now, he did say he could return as an analyst, which is interesting, but I know that is a name that continues to come up when you look at Venables and Goodwin's past together at Clemson. So we'll see if it ends up being Wes Goodwin. Then once again, it's Brent Venables' defense. OU is going to be running Brent Venables' defense in the 2025 season.
Yep.
Now,
But
will
if
he be
he's
calling it or not?
Yeah.
Will it? I don't know.
I mean, he's either going to be calling it if he made a hire within and gave play calling duties to Brandon Hall. He's still going to have a heavy influence on the game plan, and basically, I mean, the sheet is going to, for the most part, tells you what you're going to be calling in every situation. There's a couple of field plays throughout a game. Hey, let's come after him here. Hey, let's just rush 4. I mean, some of those big decisions and critical moments, he's going to be there anyways, So to me, it's not something that I'm too worried about.
Good. That makes me feel better. Thank you for saying that. All right, let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys the most important thing that happens this week for Oklahoma football. This one comes from @SoonerMagic, Magic with the K. How about that?
Okay.
Cleaned house on Kennesaw State players. What are we up to? 3?
3.
So we had the punter, remember, Jacob Ulrich. That was the first guy. That was the first transfer portal guy that the Sooners got this cycle. Then there was the tight end, Carson Kent. And now kicker Austin Welch. Do you think Kennesaw State is really glad that we like their guys, or do you think they're like, what the heck, Oklahoma? What's going on here? Why are you taking all our players?
I don't know. I know that they had a horrible offense, and that allowed their kicking game to shine. I guess punter got a lot of reps. There's plenty of film out there to evaluate him on, and kicker is interesting. Keltner's moving on, and I don't know. And this is something I wanted to ask you about. What impact do you think the roster limitations is going to have on like your specialists? Because I mean, it's not rare in college that you have like two deep snappers, maybe three, several punters, three or four kickers. Is that going to be the case moving forward, or do you think it's going to start to look a little bit more like the NFL?
I would assume it's going to start looking more like the NFL. I what you're going to have a essentially 100 spots, right?
Yep. 100 spots
105.
and you're always going to have a group of guys that are banged up, 15 to 20 guys that are hurt. So, it gets thin pretty quick. It's still a bunch of guys. I mean, it's still double what an NFL roster has. I don't know. It was something that I was curious about because usually in a college pregame warm up, whenever the kickers are out, there's like 30 guys on the field whenever both teams have their specialist out. So
Two of
I don't know.
each.
I would think
Two punters, two kickers, two long snappers.
probably.
I mean, it's an extremely important part of the game, and that is when I saw the Austin Welch news. It did make me start thinking about next season for OU, and I'm starting to get really excited about what the defense is going to be. I'm very optimistic. When it comes to what the offense under Ben Arbuckle with John Mateer at quarterback is going to be, and that made me. Then I had a very dark thought. Suitors could have a lot of games that come down to special teams next season.
Yeah, that's
In,
how it's
in
going to work.
particular, punts, like downing punts inside the 20-yard line and making kicks.
Making kicks.
I think the margins, when you look at that schedule, if they play really, really good defense, they're going to have a chance in a lot of games. And if the margins are going to be very, very thin for OU next season, the kicking game becomes ultra important.
Yep.
So I'm hoping these Kennesaw State guys are good.
Yep.
And I have no idea what type of kicking and punting competition is going to take place. I'm not going to pretend that I'm dialed into that piece of things, but I know this, man. The way that this schedule is going to look, kicking, that's going to be very important
You got
if
to be
OU wants to
dialed
have a
in.
good season.
Yep. And we haven't been like as far like we've been great punting the football, obviously. Um, Kicking has been spotty, but if we can be better than most in the conference at kicking field goals and at punting, I mean, that can be the difference in a handful of games as close as they're all going to be. I mean, you look at this conference and the games that we saw for the most part last year between it's not really even necessarily your top half teams. It's pretty much everyone. They were lower scoring games, and it often came down to one possession at the end, and that's where special teams comes into play.
Ben Anderson has more seasons, right?
I don't know.
This is where you know he's a good long snapper. We haven't talked about him once.
Not one time.
And I'm pretty sure he was like a redshirt sophomore, if I remember correctly, looking at the roster. He's been excellent. We haven't talked about him once in 2 years.
Let's
There
not
could
start now.
no, there could be no higher compliment to a long snapper than that.
Yep. That's true.
So keep doing your thing, 50. Keep slinging it back there.
It's like the forgotten part of the game, and it is not easy. It's high pressure. It has to be perfect every single time. And when it's not, it becomes very apparent to everyone immediately. And you're right. He's been nails.
I can't remember one time even T-Row going, ooh, snap's a little low. Like nothing.
I know. That's true. Good point.
So let's just not talk about it. I shouldn't
Just
even
not
brought it
talk
up.
about it. Moving
Let's
on.
move on. Ted, we've reached this time in the calendar. It's time for some football guys talking basketball.
Yes.
But first,
Schwab Meat has been smoking the highest quality meats, hot dogs, and sausages in OKC since 1912. Go to schwabmeat.com to order any of Schwab's outstanding products and use promo code OKBreakdown for free shipping on orders over $75. Schwab dogs are iconic. I like to keep it simple. Just a bun, dog, mustard, ketchup. Also, the jalapeno cheddar smoked sausage is ridiculous. Schwabmeat.com, code OKBreakdown for free shipping on orders over $75. Schwab Meat, the official hot dog of game days. And head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game. And with all the garage locations being open at 10 p.m. or later every night, it's the go-to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood. Insurica has launched a new digital agency introducing Insurica Direct. Whether you're in Oklahoma or anywhere across the U.S., they've got you covered. From small business insurance and health insurance for your employees to insurance for individuals like home, auto, and even Medicare supplements. Insurica Direct's got it all. Start your journey today at insuricadirect.com. Remember, at Insurica, we specialize in you.
for those of you that are relatively new to the podcast, football guys talking basketball, FGTB, pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yep.
Yep. Let's start with, it was a rough one for Porter Moser's boys. The number 12 ranked Sooners, undefeated no more. Went to Alabama, number 5 Alabama. Very, very good basketball team. Extremely talented, very athletic in the front court. And to say it did not go well would be quite the understatement. That was an absolute blowout. And it was never close. And we all were hoping that they'd get off to a good start in conference play. And I don't think that's the start we were looking for. That was not good.
It was brutal. And, it's going to be like that this year. I mean, that crowd at Alabama was intense. It was loud. And there's no doubt in my mind that had an impact on the game. And that's how it's going to be this year in this conference, man. Whenever you're playing on the road, they're going to be really good teams, going to be good environments. And, it's different than the Big 12, but a lot is the same. You have to hold serve at home. Going on the road, if you can steal a road win, it's going to be really impressive and it's going to take you a long way, but you have to be able to win your tough home games.
Sooners got absolutely hammered on the boards.
Oh my gosh. It was brutal.
22 offensive rebounds for Bama. It just when you look at Godwin and Northwood, they're not super athletic guys.
Yep.
And you saw a couple of those guys from Bama, you're just like, whoa. And what they were outranked, I think it was 51-26. I mean, if you're getting out rebounded,
I think I saw it was like 20-2 at one point.
Yeah, if you're getting just completely throttled on the glass like that, it's typically things are not going to go well unless you really change the math with the 3-point shot, which was another which was another issue. It's going to be very, very difficult to beat these good SEC teams if you only make 5 threes. Sooners were 5-19. That's not going to get it done. If you can't really compete on the glass, you better hit threes. And it was, but both of those areas of the game did not go well. And that's why you saw the margin at the end of that one. It was just rough, Ted. I was trying to think of positives from the game, and the only thing I could think of was, hey, Jeremiah Fierce kind of got it going in the second half. He
Oh
found it a
yeah,
little bit, but he only
which
had
was
one
big.
point in the first half, and the
Yeah,
game was over already.
he was. I mean, he was 0 for a big chunk of that game, and then I think he hit 3 or 4 in a row late, and the game
Let's
was
be real,
already.
it was garbage time.
It was
Like the
garbage time.
entire second half was garbage time.
It was decided, but I did like that he found a little bit of rhythm and got some confidence back. Because you got to remember, he's still an incredibly young player, and I mean, I think it was maybe back to reality a little bit that this season's going to be incredibly difficult. Um, I don't know. I still think this is a good team. I think we will play better in some of those tough matchups, but it does bring back some memories of past years where we've looked good early, but whenever we got into conference play and bigger, more athletic front courts did their damage against us. I hope it's not the case for the duration this year.
56 points in the paint for Bama.
Hard to overcome.
And I think the most disappointing thing for me watching the game was OU's defense. Just
Too many wide open looks,
there are
wide
just
open dunks.
so many easy baskets, like just defensive breakdowns. It felt like Bama got wherever they wanted to get on the court and then got easy basket after easy basket.
Yep.
It's not like Bama shot the lights out or anything like that. They just completely out executed and overwhelmed them physically. And that was discouraging for me, but I'm going to try to not overreact to how overmatched the Sooners looked in that game. They're still 13-1. I still am excited, but they need to come out and play well Wednesday night against A&M.
Yep.
And A&M's really good too.
Yep.
That's a top 15 team. Really good basketball team.
Late tip in that 8 o'clock game.
Yeah, baby. Late
Late
nighter in
tip
Norman.
Wednesday night. We need to have a good crowd there. I mean, you saw the impact that it had in the game against Alabama. We got to have a good environment at home because, like I said, it's going to be very difficult to beat top 10, top 15 teams on the road. So whenever you're at home, you've got to be able to get those crucial wins and stockpile as many as you can. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still optimistic. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm looking at. Oftentimes, I got to rely on what everyone else is kind of telling me, but my eyes told me we've got issues in the front court. Hopefully, we can get better play, and we're not going to all of a sudden become super athletic and grow, during the season, but we can be a hell of a lot better on defense than we were against Alabama.
Completely agree. And you got to hit threes. It's basketball now. If you're not going to be really good in the front court, you're going to struggle protecting the rim. You have to, not only do you have to hit them, you got to take a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if that becomes a bigger piece of what the Sooners do. Hey, at least the women won.
Yeah.
It got very uncomfortable late. I relaxed. I won't lie. I
Yeah.
relaxed. I was like, they got it. And then the fourth quarter happened and they could not put the ball in the basket. And it got very, very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. And again, not an easy place to win. And they've had a couple of tough ones on the road here to start off conference play. And they stole one at Tennessee. I say they stole one. They really dominated the basketball game, and Tennessee tried to steal it late, but were able to get it done. And that's one that carries you. It's a big win going in there and getting that one.
And I mean, I don't even think Skylar Vance scored a point. Reagan Beers was much less productive than what we've come to expect from her. I think what she have like 13,
Yeah.
but still, if that fourth quarter was done, that's something that Judy Baracek is not going to be happy about. But it doesn't change the fact that you win your conference opener on the road against a really good Tennessee team. Like that's something to build on. It just you wish you would have finished a little stronger.
Yeah.
Got outscored by 15 in the fourth.
Well, was the Texas was not enough. They lost their conference opener, right, to Texas.
Oh, I keep forgetting that is
Yeah.
they're in the
But
SEC.
won
Sorry,
the
I'm not.
conference
I'm not
road opener.
smart. You knew what
It,
I meant.
but that was a nice win on the road, though. Number 15 Tennessee, solid team to be able to get it out of there with that dub, even though it wasn't pretty late. I mean, they've got a stretch here where they need to stockpile some wins before they go to number 2 South Carolina on January 19th. So at Mississippi State, at home against A&M and Missouri before they go out to South Carolina.
Jenny's going to want them to play better in the fourth quarter, because if you go back to that Texas game, I think it was tied going into the fourth.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Got outplayed in the fourth by Texas, lose that one in Norman. Now, this one, you had a big cushion, but got outplayed in the fourth again. She's not going to be pleased with that. That's your two SEC games where you have not performed the way you want to perform in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like in their next one. But hey, at least they won. The Thunder are awesome.
Ooh,
This is the
man.
part where we get to talk about the Thunder, and I just smiled the whole time. You talk about a team that was good in the fourth quarter in the last couple. They were absolute nails in the fourth quarter this weekend. Really nice win over the Knicks. Really nice win over the Celtics. You look at the Knicks game, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was fantastic. He had 20 from Jalen Williams. But the story of the game is the fourth quarter from the Thunder, and the story of that is Aaron Wiggins, baby. Just took the game over. 15 points in the fourth quarter for Aaron Wiggins in that win over the Knicks. It was amazing. It was fantastic. Did you see that coming? Is that what you were expecting?
Well, no, that's not what I would expect. But I mean, the more people that like, the deeper you go into the roster and get that type of play, especially late, is I mean, it's why they're so good, and they're going to get better whenever Chet finds his way back onto the court, which has to be somewhat concerning for the rest of the league that the Thunder are 30-5 and we still haven't seen them play at full strength yet.
They've technically, because remember the NBA Cup championship game does not count. It's not a real game, like statistically speaking. They've won 15 games in a row. And the Celtics, it looked like the Celtics were a little too much for them. And then the second half happened. A few defensive adjustments. They put Lou Dort on Jaylen Brown, and he locked him up for the entire second half. But they end up winning comfortably. And I know the Celtics missed a lot of shots in the second half, but the Boston Celtics scored 27 points in a half of basketball. They scored 12 points in the fourth quarter, Ted. Absolute shackles from the Thunder in the second half of that game.
Well, I mean, it was 85-85 with 7.5 to go in the fourth, and the Thunder scored 20 points from that point on, just blew the doors open. Went on what that would be a 25-7 run at that point to close the game. Hello.
Lou Dort could not hit a shot until they absolutely needed him to hit shots, and then he couldn't miss. And Shea was awesome. He was the best player on the floor. 33, 11, and 6. He just continues to be an absolute pleasure to watch play basketball. And another great game from Aaron Wiggins. Yeah, sure. Boston also could not hit a three, but that was very helpful to the Thunder's cause. But I like to think that the Thunder had a lot to do with that because of the way that they defend. But they're the best team in the NBA. Now
Well,
we're going to get number one on number one.
I know that's going to be awesome at Cleveland.
We'll
They're
find
one
out.
game better or half a game better, maybe?
Yeah. But I don't
But
think anyone would take, like, if you said, hey, who would you pick to win a series? I don't think anyone's taking Cleveland over the Thunder. I could be wrong.
I wouldn't think so. It's crazy though that the Thunder have a 7-game lead in the West right now.
And the team has not been whole for one game.
Crazy. Now, asking, I can't imagine, but whenever he comes back, does that throw anything off with rotations and chemistry? I mean, there may be a little bit of a learning curve, but at some point, you have to imagine they're going to be better.
You have to imagine that. Yeah, will it throw things off? Of course it will. Right? They haven't all played together. I think the most challenging thing will be how do Chet and Hartenstein fit on the court together. But Chet seems like a very unselfish guy. Hartenstein just got paid. He seems like a great teammate and kind of a great facilitator. So I'm not overly concerned about it. Now, I was a little concerned about Chet's outfit during the Boston game, but
Uh-oh, I didn't see it.
oh, you didn't see the white beanie? Oh,
Maybe that's a good sign though, because remember how horrible Hartenstein looked.
and he's been great.
How awesome was that? Who was it pinned it on the glass? Then they went the other end, and he caught that alley oop and dunked on that dude.
You mean
That
when
was awesome.
Shea pinned, what was it, Jason
Was it
Tatum?
Shea? That was awesome.
That's the thing about Shea now. Is like, I used to think that some people just talked about how good of a defender was because in a weird way, people were just comparing him to what Russell Westbrook was as a defender when he played for the Thunder. Like, oh, this is kind of our expectation for the best player for the Thunder and how they play defense. And Shea is a much better defender than Russell ever was. But now I feel like he's actually a very good defender. I don't know if what I just said makes any sense at all, but he's become like it seems like he takes a lot of pride in it now.
Yeah.
And people have really started to notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Russ would get you a bunch of steals, but there was a lot of gambling going on.
there was a lot of relaxing,
A lot of relaxing going on. Yeah.
a lot of wandering. And it just Shea is I mean, he's the odds-on favorite to win the MVP right now for a reason. I mean, he's the betting favorite as of right now, as of tonight.
How does this team compare with, the last time the Thunder were right there on the verge?
I think if they are whole, this is the most talented Thunder team we've had. I think that's fair to say. And now, no one's Kevin Durant, but the things that Shea does and the way that he leads, Lou Dort's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. Jalen Williams can do it all. Now, I would like to see Jalen Williams play better in some of these big games. Like he doesn't show up the way I want him to show up in some of these big games that they've had. But you know what? I still think he's a fantastic player. I think Chet is kind of a piece that differentiates this Thunder team versus the last one.
Definitely deeper. Way deeper.
Feels way deeper.
Way more two-way players.
I mean, Aaron Wiggins, I feel like Aaron Wiggins would have been a starter for some of those Thunder teams.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. This would take this is a much longer conversation that we
Yeah,
just don't have time for.
I'm
But
with you.
long story short, very excited about what this season could be.
Yep.
Starting to get to the point where if they don't make the NBA finals, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm starting to drift to that opinion.
There's in the past, there's been years where the standings maybe don't tell you as much because as you had some of the older teams that could flip the switch whenever it came playoff time. I just I don't know that the league is the same anymore. I don't see those teams that have been there, that have guys that have won multiple titles and they're just waiting for that moment to flip the switch. I don't know. Feels like it's a totally different era.
Last year, everyone liked to point out, hey, the Thunder were healthy all year long. They didn't have any guys miss long stretches. That's why they were the number one seed. They haven't had Chet for a long time now. They just keep winning. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time to be a Thunder fan.
Yes, it is.
Now, maybe some of that will rub off on OU basketball.
It will, of course.
Pretty sure that's how it works. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first, three things matter in banking: service, service, and service. And First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise, it's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they are honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you are headed. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, Bishop McGuinness offers a college prep curriculum that includes 26 AP courses, participation in OSSAA athletics, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available.
And go to opolisclothing.com and use promo code TED for 10% off our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's opolisclothing.com and use promo code TED. Buttery soft and 10% off. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Baker Mayfield. Let's go. Into the playoffs, win the division. It was a little ugly early against the Saints. Too bad I couldn't watch it. I had to watch a worthless Dallas Washington game instead and follow the Bucks on my phone and on the internet. But they came back, true fashion. Baker was great, had some fantastic throws in this game, and they're in the playoffs, baby.
It felt dicey there for a second.
Yeah, I did.
And it felt like he willed that team to a win, especially with some of those plays, some of those touchdown plays in that second half. Like, he is just creating stuff, man. I mean, that was a lot of fun to watch, but there was nothing better than the Mike Evans catch to get him over 1,000 yards and the celebration that came after it. That was so cool. And I think that catch, because he hit a couple different incentives, $3 million on that play.
That feels good.
Oh my God.
Really good. Yeah, that was awesome. Baker, I mean, 4,500 yards passing, over 40 touchdowns passing. And like you said, felt like he willed that team to victory. It felt like he, because they were banged up for a big portion of the season, and it felt like he was kind of a one-man machine for a big chunk of the season, carrying that team on his back, which is, that's how he likes to do it. And, it's going to be tough this year in the NFC. There's no doubt about that. But, man, I'm really thrilled with what he's done there at Tampa Bay and resurrected his career. I mean, I think you said it last week, probably the most one of the most loved players in the NFL. Like people love to root for him. His teammates love him. Tampa Bay loves him. It's really fun to watch.
They get the Commanders in the wild card round in Tampa. They open as a 3.5 point favorite. I think that's a game I expect them to win. I guess you never know with Daniels, man. That guy is he. Whew.
You just can't let him go crazy on you. Which easy to say that sitting here in Oklahoma, not having to defend him, but uh, he's a crazy player, does all kinds of crazy stuff, crazy impressive stuff. But Baker in that passing game, getting healthy, getting their guys back, I favor him to win too.
Did you ever expect there to be so many Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans in the state of Oklahoma? I see those jerseys all the time.
Well,
Are we a Bucks state now because of Baker Mayfield?
we've had a connection there. I mean, Leroy Selman, Gerald McCoy, now Baker's there. There's been a little bit of a Tampa Bay connection, but there definitely is with Baker for sure. I'm down with it.
I I'll be rooting for him. I don't have any connections to the Commanders. I got no reason to root for them. I'll be rooting for Baker and the Bucks. I mean,
All
come on.
day,
What are we even
all
talking
day,
about?
all day. And you never know, man. Once you get in the playoffs, you get hot at the right time. You never know what could happen.
I am I am thrilled that Baker is having the type of year he's having. How in the hell did he not make the Pro Bowl? What are we even doing?
I don't know. I don't know. But we had six guys make it from OU. Should have been seven.
I maybe I'm missing something. I'm not watching as much NFL football as I used to watch. It feels like that guy, especially you mentioned the injuries. It feels like that guy should be a Pro Bowler. That's
Yeah.
just the sense I get.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Snubbed. That's good. You know how he is. He's got that up in the locker for sure.
No doubt. All right, who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
I had to go with Cooper Rush. He's started, I believe, the last 9 games for the Dallas Cowboys. And, they're playing in a meaningless game against the Commanders. And out of nowhere, he doesn't get to start.
Really?
Very interesting. And just so happens that had he got the start, he would have hit his incentive for playing in, I believe, 55% of the snaps of the year. And it saved Jerry Jones $250,000. But according to him, post game, he had no idea, just didn't know.
There's no way. There's no way he didn't know. Does Jerry Jones think we're all stupid? Does he think we're all idiots?
Yes.
Fair.
The answer to that is yes.
Maybe he was
So
too busy being on the latest episode of Landman. He's working on his acting too much to know that Cooper Rush just needed a few snaps for 250 grand, which that guy absolutely deserves.
deserves it. He's played some good football.
Yeah.
And, part of me, I understand it financially from Jerry's part, but don't tell us you don't know. He's in a spot where he's got to do everything he can to pay for the quarterback that didn't play for him this year. So that's just kind of where they're at. But yeah, basically robbed Cooper Rush of 250K.
That's not cool, man.
No,
I feel like that is something like you're at that point, you're challenging the football gods.
that's right.
The man
Good
has
way to
has
put it.
put in an incredible amount of effort to go out there and keep this thing afloat for the Cowboys this year, and you do him like that.
And he won some games for you
Right.
when it was over. Season was a wash. It was done. And he came in and actually had some really nice games. Played well, got some wins for you, and you bench him in the final one and take 250K off his plate.
The
Wrong.
funniest part is him saying he didn't know.
Oh,
Really,
now
Jerry?
what happened? What was the deal?
What?
No, we just wanted to give Trey Lance a shot. Hadn't played all season for us. He threw just a handful of passes the entire year, but we'll give him the start in the last game. And it just so happens to take 250K from someone. Brutal.
That's a bad weekend.
That's the NFL, though, man.
That, whether Jerry Jones realizes it or not, that's something that will get talked about by the guys in the league.
Yeah.
And something like that, now, money talks. We know how it works. If the Cowboys are offering you the big contract, you're probably going. If it's the biggest offer you're getting. But if something's close, you got the owner and GM doing stuff like that. Like that's something that could sway a guy to not go play in Dallas.
And here's the thing, like, just
Maybe I'm overreacting, but it's not cool, man.
you're not overreacting to Cooper Rush. I mean, but you just mentioned the celebration for Mike Evans, right? I
Dude,
mean,
Sean McDermott punted today. And the only reason I know this is because Sam Martin was a teammate of mine in Detroit. He's the punter for the Bills now. They could have kicked like a 50-something yard field goal, and instead he punted so that Sam Martin could hit his incentive for down punts inside the 20.
there you go.
The Bills are damn good.
You want to pay your guys. You want them to feel like they've got the support in the front office to make money, and you're not going to be handicapped at moments to try and keep money off the table.
Not
Bad
cool, man.
business.
Not cool.
Bad.
Just not cool. And the worst part is acting like you didn't know. That is nothing happens in that building that Jerry Jones doesn't know about. Like he is notorious for controlling everything around there, and he didn't know that. Really? Come on, man.
250K too. It's not like it was a $10 million bonus.
Your team is worth like $10 billion, dude. Pay the man his 250K.
Pay him. Pay him. It's
Maybe
not
we
even
can.
worth the bad publicity, you know.
That's
It's not even worth it.
that is the best way to put it. Like now, you search it on Twitter right now. Everyone is just absolutely hammering Jerry Jones for it.
That's right.
All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
I've signed up for so many subscriptions over the years that I've lost track which is why I need Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It lets you see all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all your accounts. I got set up on the app, and it really is a great way to look at your finances as a whole. You get alerts if bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with customer service so you don't have to. Cancel your unwanted subscription and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/game on today. That's rocketmoney.com/game on, rocketmoney.com/game on.
and we are brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code OKBreakdown to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinion into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. This week, I'm looking at the football board and selecting Will Howard more than 1.5 touchdown passes
Yeah.
and Drew Aller more than 10.5 rushing yards. Prize Picks puts its member first, so all your withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code OKBreakdown to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. My winner of the weekend, we haven't talked about the Notre Dame Georgia game. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Look good.
The knock on that program had been, hey, they're solid, they're good, but they just don't have the talent to hang with the big boys. When they get to the big stage, they just don't have the guys. And even though Georgia hasn't been the Georgia of the last couple of years this season, they're still an extremely talented football team. And Notre Dame handled them. That was a really nice performance by Notre Dame, a really good win for them, and a fantastic win for Marcus Freeman. And the most important, the biggest win for Notre Dame in a long, long time.
Long time. That was big time. Like how they ended the first half and started the second half was the football game.
No doubt. What was it? They kicked the field goal with 40 seconds to go in the first half. It's 6-3. Sack strip fumble on Stockton.
Oof.
RPO slant. Left guard may or may not have been 6 yards down the field when he threw it. But just, you're right, dude. Right before that, the half, just a massive swing for it to be 6-3 and all of a sudden 13-3 in the blink of an eye. And then you return the second half kickoff for a touchdown and the game was over. Like Georgia, with what their offense has been all season long, they weren't coming back from that. Not against that Notre Dame defense.
Nope. The Notre Dame's defense was great. I will say though, I was surprised that Gunnar Stockton has a freaking hose, dude.
Hold on. You're surprised that Georgia has a talented player on its roster? What do you mean you're surprised?
I was surprised that Gunnar has a gun. Dude, he was ripping the ball a couple of times, man. He's got some velocity.
I thought Riley Leonard managed the game really well.
Mm-hmm.
Played within
nice
himself,
runs.
right? Took care of the ball in the passing game and then made some really, really important plays with his legs. Him going flipping to get that first down in the fourth quarter was pretty cool. But I don't really think, if you're Georgia, if you're Kirby Smart, I don't think it's overly complicated. You didn't have your starting quarterback. You turned it over twice and you gave up a special teams touchdown.
Yep.
Now, the jumping off sides, when Notre Dame ran the punt team off and ran the offense on the field, I immediately thought of you, and I wondered if you tried to just take your TV off the wall and throw it, if you threw something at the TV, if it was more of a scream into a pillow situation for you. I couldn't stop thinking about how you reacted to that moment because I was watching it go, don't jump, don't jump, don't jump. They're not going to snap it. Don't jump. Don't. And Ted, they jumped. Unbelievable. How that happens, unbelievable.
I was screaming before that they should have taken forever to match the personnel. You get, when someone comes out in a special teams play that requires a full 11 change, and then they do a full sub, sprint guys off, you are going to get a really long time to get your personnel right. And they sprinted back out there to get lined up.
Why did they do that? And Kirby Smart, hey, he had to be incredibly disappointed in the lack of execution in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
They should have gone as slow as possible. It's not like a Mayday field goal.
Right.
In Mayday field goal,
That's the
You
one exception the offense gets.
right. There is you do not get the opportunity to match. Right. When they run a third down play, they have no more timeouts. They run the field goal unit out there because you're supposed to assume the next play they are going to kick a field goal.
Yep.
That's why that rule is the way that it is. That's why the defense doesn't get to match. That is not what happened. This is punt team. You come out in a punt formation, you run the offense back out. You have all the time you need to get your guys out there. And how many we see it time after time after time. These defensive linemen taking forever to get off the field. And Georgia's defense, that their punt return team couldn't have sprinted off the field any faster than they did. It was crazy to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Got to know the rules, man.
Here's the thing. It's a big game. It's a big moment. It's fourth and short. You absolutely have to get a stop. You have to talk about these things. You have to go out there. The team has to know the rule that should we get this, we have a ton of time to match. It favors us because of the play clock. We can take as long, well, not as long as you want, but because of the way that they did that, it's considered they're trying to gain an edge on the defense. The officials are going to give you a way longer than usual to match personnel. So, but it's a hopefully a good learning experience for everyone else that was watching the game, and a reminder that your players need to know that if it comes up again.
In that moment, Marcus Freeman outcoached Kirby Smart.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it looked like to me. But it looked like Georgia was not prepared for that moment.
They had practiced it clearly, and were ready for it. Now, it helps when you got the lead and you got the football and you can stand over there on the sideline and discuss it a little bit, but still, I mean, they knew what they were going to do and they handled it nicely.
Notre Dame's never joined in a conference.
There's no reason to.
This first experiment with the 12-team playoff for them is going rather well.
Yep.
I think they're perfectly content with where they're at.
Like their big rub previously is like they're never going to get a bye. Who the hell wants a bye now? Right?
Exactly. So I was really impressed with Notre Dame. I thought that all of those injuries that they've had would be pretty significant, and they came out, they handled business, and I still don't think they can win it all. There's only 4 teams left. I know they're favored over Penn State. I will not be surprised at all if they win that game. I just don't think they can beat Ohio State.
I think they're the second best team.
That's fair.
But no one can beat Ohio State if they play how they played the last couple of games. Nobody. Now,
it's interesting.
There's no guarantee that they play that way the rest of the way out. But I mean, when we've seen that we've seen what the best college football has to offer this year, and it's Ohio State.
Yes. The last 2 weeks of Ohio State have been scary.
Scary is the right word.
Notre Dame can't match that, but I think they're more than capable of beating Penn State and go and play for a national title.
Yep.
Which is a wildly successful season. But
we're
it's
guaranteed.
weird.
Guaranteed. Well, I guess I don't know. As long as if Texas wears their whites, we're guaranteed an outstanding uniform matchup for the national championship.
That's important.
Very important.
What happens if Notre Dame comes out in one of their like weird alternates? How mad would it make you?
It wouldn't shock me, but yeah, it's like, what are we doing, guys? Come on, this is it. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Your branding, here it is. There's going to be like 3 million people watching. I'm joking. There's going to be a lot of people watching.
Congrats, Notre Dame. Heck of a
Big.
season. My loser of the weekend. I'm sorry to do it, Ted, but I got to go with your New England Patriots. They'd lost 6 in a row. They'd been accomplishing the mission. Just all you have to do is lose to the Bills. And I know the Bills are resting a bunch of guys. I get it. But you lose and you have the number one pick in the draft. And they won. Joe Milton did not get the memo, apparently. That guy went out and played his butt off, scoring touchdowns, doing backflips, baby. But not only do they not have the first pick, they don't have the second pick, they don't have the third pick, they have the fourth pick now. Titans have won. I think Cleveland's 2 and the Giants have 3. So instead of just losing the game and having the first pick, they are now picking at number 4. And after the game, I don't think it was that big of a surprise, but they fired their head coach.
Probably
Rod
fired him
Mayo's
for winning
out.
the game.
Maybe.
That was not the plan. What are you doing? Yeah. I don't even know what to think about who they're going to hire as head coach, but
Vrabel. It's got to be Vrabel,
I
right?
think so. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, that's the name that you have to go to, but yeah. It's funny. I feel like this happens like every year, doesn't it? Like someone's got it in the bag, first pick overall, and go out and play their best game of the year.
The
Houston
last
did it, right?
the last week of the season has become wildly entertaining in the NFL for a multitude of reasons. Of course, playoff seeding. Right? You've got divisions on the line, like how's the seeding going to work out? Then you've got draft order. And the contract incentives have become one of the most fun things to monitor the last week of the season. Like I love how everyone puts them out there so everyone's aware of them. You find yourself cheering for random guys. Like it's great. I love that. I love the contract incentive knowledge spreading, and then we all get to cheer for it. It's fun.
The more things that you can have to be interested in games that otherwise aren't interesting, it's a win.
The Bills lost the game, but what a win for them. They're locked into the 2 seed. Josh Allen did play the first play of the game. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
Comes in, hands it off. Doesn't want his start streak to end. 115 in a row now for Josh Allen.
Impressive.
With the way that guy plays, crazy.
Does Eli Manning have the record? I feel like
Quarterback starts in a row.
in a row, or maybe it's Favre. There's some crazy numbers out there, but I think Eli Manning, I don't think he ever missed a start. Something crazy with Eli.
Peyton Manning had 208 consecutive starts.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. 200.
Brett Favre had, I think this is just all-time
Overall
consecutive start streaks. This is great podcasting. Brett Favre, 321. Is that right?
321. That's crazy.
Phillip Rivers, 252. And there you go, Ted. Eli Manning, 227. Dang.
But it's still kind
Oh,
of.
no. Eli
like,
Manning, 222. Peyton Manning, 227. Interesting.
It feels like Josh Allen is still like just kind of getting started. But I mean, what's that? 8 years now of starting every game, pretty much.
With how that guy puts his body on the line a lot of the time, that's pretty damn impressive, man.
Well, Favre's not, but the rest of those guys are all big dudes, you know. So
Add start streaks to the intrigue of the last week of the NFL regular season.
that's right.
That's when we get a nice little start streak update by guys playing one play in the game.
I
Love
will
that.
say though, the Saquon Barkley deal. I'm kind of glad he didn't play. Like, if you don't do it in 16, you shouldn't do it. If you have the chance, does that make you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not the same if you do it in more games.
I think it would have been cool if he did it,
Still
but
would be
I
cool.
I would rather see a healthy Saquon Barkley heading into the playoffs.
Dude's a freak.
I still can't believe he did that in a game. I've never seen anyone even try the little.
You
I
can't
think
even
about
do it
that
on the
play way
video
too
game.
often.
The right before that was like incredible. Had everyone on the side and was already like ooh, and then he like levitated, spun the guy like,
Did a toe touch in the air.
and the guy comes running. It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Not even in football, just generally speaking.
NFL playoffs are about to be here. I'm excited.
Love it. Best show in the world.
We'll have to talk a little more NFL now that the playoffs are here.
Yep.
Birthday shout outs. Happy ninth birthday to Voss Smith.
Happy 10th birthday to King Bobby Melton.
Happy 18th birthday to Keely Beth Crawford.
Happy 23rd birthday to Chloe Abramson.
Happy 44th birthday to Ryan Foshi.
Happy 53rd birthday to Jennifer Red McCauley.
Happy 60th birthday to Cocaine Rich.
Cocaine Rich. Happy birthday to Sam Slam Todd.
And happy birthday to Austin Carey. On that note, episode 490 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Wednesday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you go check out our website, okbreakdown.com. We got all our stuff in one spot for you now. Hope you all have a great start to your week. Stay warm out there, people. It's chilly. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.